So yeah, so hi everyone who's watching. Hi there.
Hi, we're live.
We're live with Ben. So yeah, so Kinetics, I told everyone the same thing. Like, you got to connect it to like the DSN, which is the name of this network, like our collective Twitter, and then each individual streamer can direct it out to their, to their following. But then for some reason, Kinetics connected it to his personal Twitter, and we need it connected to DSN's Twitter, or it just doesn't make sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Kinetics. All right. So for those of you who are watching the replay, I would love for you to hit like, subscribe, comment, and do all those things. All those things that help the algorithm, all those things that help me. Ben, have you happened to have the opportunity to retweet that we're live right now?
I actually can right now.
Okay. That would be amazing and much, much appreciated.
All righty. Oh, there you are. And I'll even add something. Going live right now.
Sorry, everyone watching for a little bit of technical difficulties this morning. I have been fairly sick for the last couple of weeks, as have many of my viewers. And I woke up like 30 minutes before this interview, and I was like, oh, I gotta go. I gotta get ready right now. Which is really abnormal for me because I like to be really well prepared. But luckily, I have been following you for a while. And so I'm somewhat familiar with some of the projects and platforms that you've promoted over and really like your story of getting into cryptocurrency. And I think that's like, you have one of the most relatable stories, because when you first started doing crypto streaming, you were streaming from a truck that you were driving. Is that right?
Yes. I am. I was a truck driver, and now prior to that, I owned a remodeling company, and I moved out of remodeling, and I got a job as a truck driver, and I enjoyed it, loved it. It was very relaxing. It almost like a good retirement job almost. And then when I learned about like crypto and blockchain and all that, and realized this is the future, that's when I went full, crypto, and now I have hung up my trucking hat, and I am 100% in cryptos as a job and an entrepreneur.
Nice. So when you say that you're in crypto as a job, as an entrepreneur, do you mean that you're working independently within the industry, or that you're working like for a company? Okay.
No. I actually own one cryptocurrency corporation myself. Then I own half of another one, HEX Solutions, and then I own shares of about 6 other cryptocurrency companies, not like tokens.
Right, got it. Yeah, shares of companies.
Yes.
Percentage ownership of companies.
Yep.
So This is an interesting topic to discuss because I think you talk about crypto probably with a lot of people who are like brand new to crypto, who really do still view owning cryptos or a number of cryptos as owning stock. Like, as they like in the same way that people think of when they own X number of shares in a company, they own a certain percentage of its stock. How do you differentiate the two to someone who doesn't understand that difference?
Well, how I explain it is it actually is it it actually depends on which ones you hold.
Mm-hmm.
If you hold something like Litecoin or something like Bitcoin, that is a cryptocurrency or crypto asset. Where if you hold Ethereum or or well, Ethereum's not a good example because they haven't fully migrated over to a proof of stake, blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have like ADA or there are several projects that run uh, a node structure where your wallet is validating transactions, then you aren't really owning shares more than you are an active, almost employee of the project.
Okay. Okay. So that's how you would differentiate it. And you're saying you're almost an employee of the project because it's in your best interest for the token's value to increase.
Yes.
So it's in your best interest to promote the project so that more people buy it, because the more people that buy it, the more the price goes up.
Uh, yeah, I guess that's one way of looking at it.
So that's a Ponzi scheme. Like by
No,
definition.
no,
Yes.
no.
Yes, if the asset that you're holding needs more people to buy it for its price to continue to appreciate, that's a Ponzi scheme.
No, that's everything. If you don't advertise a product or advertise anything, then it doesn't have any value because no one knows it is available.
Okay. Okay.
That's actually called advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had a Chevy car and I never told anyone that I had it for sale, would it be a Ponzi scheme if I did?
Well, I'm looking for a really good graphic to demonstrate what exactly a Ponzi scheme is here, but I'm not
Hey,
finding anything quickly. And yeah, money from new people goes to previous investors. Russ, there you go.
that's every investor.
So that's everything.
Yeah, it's e- every share, every stock's value is actually based on supply of whatever it is and how much people want it. If a lot of people want Apple, the price of Apple goes up. And if one of the early investors wants to actually sell their shares to the person who wants new shares, that's not a Ponzi. That's that's a trade.
Okay. All right. So a lot of people early on have been calling HEX a Ponzi because HEX does promise return on investment. However, the return that HEX promises is only in terms of HEX. So HEX has promised, promises that if you lock up your coins for 15 years, you're going to get back more HEX than when you put in. And that is guaranteed by the smart contract. They have not promised that the value of that HEX will increase, only that it has so far. So one thing that I know a lot of people are curious about, because a lot of people were like, a lot of the people who are Hexicans now were like really big Bitcoin Ben fans back in the early days of Hex. And they said that they brought it up on your stream and that you more or less dismissed it. Do you remember that conversation, or do you remember any of those conversations at all?
No, the only thing I really remember about HEX is Richard Hart, which is a genius. He's absolutely a genius.
Mm-hmm.
It was a project he was creating, and I don't remember when it launched, and I don't remember exactly like what the structure was of the project.
Okay. So I can tell you like a brief overview. HEX is a CD. So it's a high yield certificate of deposit on the blockchain, and you can hold your coins, or you can hold your tokens as liquid and then just appreciate their price. If the price appreciates, you can sell them or trade them just like you would any other crypto asset, or you can lock them up and stake them for any duration of your choosing. You can stake for 1 day, and you can stake for a maximum of 5,555 days, which is 15.2 years. The longer that you stake, the higher interest that you earn. Same as a traditional CD. A lot of the controversy with HEX in the beginning was that over 50% of the supply was controlled by something called the origin address, which many people assume is Richard. But for legal reasons, he said he can't confirm is or is not, or who is control. He says is not him, but he cannot confirm who that is. And that makes sense, actually, because that would mean people were expecting returns based on the actions of whoever is in control of that origin address.
Plus, that would also make that person a target.
And it would make that person a huge target. You're right. But so another really big part of the controversy was that with HEX, if you end a stake early, so like, let's say that you stake your coins for 15 years, and after 5 years, you've decided that you need to end your stake. So you would pay a penalty in the form of interest, and actually you would pay a really, really heavy penalty in this case. Like, if you fulfill 50% of your stake, you're getting back all of your principal at least. And if you fulfill more than 50% of your stake, you're getting back your principal plus some interest. But the equation that goes into calculating it is relative to like how much you promised you were going to, right? It just makes sense. So half of that penalty goes to the stakers and is distributed to the people who have their HEX staked relative to their number of T-shares. And half of that penalty goes back to the origin address. So people
Awesome.
seem to have a
I mean,
problem
I don't,
with
it, from how you're explaining it, it sounds like a very well structured uh, tokenization and coin tokens structure.
Yeah, so it's called, like, I think within the HEX community, these are called like pumpamentals.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that, like, that nature of like the way that cryptocurrency, or the way that the time penalties are paid out is actually called the truth engine, because it will like keep you honest. Like if you wanted to earn 40% interest, but you weren't going to honor your commitment of, holding the tokens locked for that amount of time, well, the truth engine is going to come and hold you accountable.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people, okay, so here, Freedom Hotline. Oh man, I remember telling this guy about HEX on D Live last year. Freedom Hotline, can you give some more details about that? Because Ben has said that he does not remember streams where people have talked to him about HEX. I know that when I mentioned this in some of our groups that you were coming on, they were like, oh, Ben dismissed HEX, and I stopped watching him then. And normally I would have like gone and found all those streams and told you how much money you would have today if you had invested on that day.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I used to watch Richard Hart, when I initially got in. And like I said, the guy's a genius. He definitely knows cryptocurrency. He definitely knows blockchain. He is a natural entrepreneur, which as an entrepreneur, as a successful entrepreneur, you have to understand value added economics. And if you don't, you will not succeed as an entrepreneur. And he obviously has. So at that time, if I remember correctly, when he launched it, there was a lot actually going on in cryptocurrency. And I actually do a very wide, general show on like cryptocurrencies and
the link to which can be found in the description here.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, if you, and I warned you guys, I talk about cryptocurrencies and I also talk about other things that I see in the world that I find repulsive or I find encouraging, and I also talk about those. So the link under here is for my Patreon channel, which has all of them. It has crypto. I actually I host a weekly cryptocurrency entrepreneur show, and I basically educate people on how cryptocurrencies like HEX. I mean, HEX has a very large community. That network of people has value. If the community did not value HEX, HEX would not have a value.
Sure, that's interesting because it came up specifically in a stream I recently did with Brock Pierce, where he said, you know, the number one most important thing about cryptocurrencies is that there's a community that backs it. And with HEX, we have almost a guarantee that a community will back it for a minimum of 15 years because so many of us have 15-year stakes. So we have incentive, you know, we have a serious incentive to back this community, to back HEX for as long as, you know, for 15 years.
Yeah, hey, I don't hate, or I never really talk any crap about like other projects if they're bad or if I think they're good or any. Now, I do not like Ripple, the corporation, but I have nothing against XRP.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think Ripple as a corporation is led by some of the same people that I don't like in the old world economic system.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Hey, so let's get your take on something. Let's get your take on this concept of decentralization. So I've been saying for quite some time, like just like kind of transition here just for a minute. I've been saying for some time that there are a lot of people who use the word interchangeably to mean what they want it to mean in that moment. Like they'll say, "Oh, that's not decentralized," but then in another sentence use, "Oh, it's decentralized," to mean exactly the opposite of what they meant, you know, to disparage whatever else it was that they were disparaging previously. So for a lot of people, I think people think that decentralization means decentralization of ownership. But if you go back to read the white paper or read any of the early done about cryptocurrencies or about Bitcoin, decentralization does not necessarily mean decentralization of ownership. And I'm wondering what you can say here.
Well, the word that I think there's a reason people like that word. It's very generic. It's very open to numeral interpretation. You know, oh, this project's very, very decentralized.
Right.
Well, okay. What does that mean? Is that 100? Is that 1,000? Is that 10,000? Is that 20,000? It's what I like to call a an agenda word.
Mm-hmm.
They use it because it's used in cryptocurrency, but it doesn't have a real accurate definition to it. You can apply it to Litecoin. You can apply it to, you know, HEX. You can apply it to any project that you want to, as long as you are using it in a general term. You know, I could say the world is centralized because we all live on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm in New York City and I say the world is decentralized because it's everyone's so far away from me, that's true too. You know, it's all relative. It's a word that is actually based on relativity. It's like if someone says, you know, oh, I love that shade of blue. And someone goes, that's not blue, that's green. No, that's blue. No, that's green. Who's right?
Yeah, it can depend upon. So here's someone puts up a definition. Isaac Hall: decentralized means it can operate without central leadership or activity from a central point. So I think that's pretty that's a pretty good definition of decentralization. So like to say that HEX is decentralized, we can say, well, HEX is a smart contract that's complete, that does not need any further development. So no matter what, if you deposit your HEX you deposit HEX into the HEX smart contract, you are going to gain trustless interest, and there does not need to be any human intervention.
Right. And on the flip side, if you're actually talking to an asshole, they could say, well, it's centralized because it only relies on one smart contract. And then you'd go, well, yeah, that's the project. Well, it's just one. And that's why it's an agenda word.
Mm-hmm. It is, and people do use it. Like people use it to refer to centralization of ownership. Right. Centralized, yeah, and where like that's not what it was intended for in any way. People use it interchangeably.
Right, and the reason that they can is because that's what that word was created for.
Mm-hmm.
It's created to, let's put it this way, anything that isn't mathematics is an opinion.
Yep.
That's just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
I run across people all the time who are like, well, Litecoin sucks. Okay, well, don't buy it. Yeah, but you should admit that it sucks. Well, I'm not going to. Thank you. Have a nice day. And there are people who are like, oh God, Ben, I can't believe you were on a HEX channel. Why? What's wrong with HEX? Well, I don't like it. Well, then don't buy it.
Yeah, I actually run into that. I run into that so much because, Ben, I don't know if you know this, but I've been involved with cryptocurrency since long before HEX even existed. I was like a crypto journalist. I was doing research for, my doctoral research in cryptocurrency since long before HEX existed. In fact, that's why I got involved with HEX, was because my research was on the evolution of crypto tribalism. And it seemed like HEX was the latest target of the anger of the masses, right?
Let me put it this way. Everybody who has a whole lot of X, whatever, loves X. Anybody who has a whole lot of Litecoin loves Litecoin. Anybody who has a whole lot of Bitcoin loves Bitcoin. Everything else bad, what I have good. It's just a human characteristic.
Yeah, but see, that doesn't make any sense. If we were open-minded to investigating what's going to increase in value versus other things, then we would be able to change our bags and therefore change our positions.
Yeah, and that's why like people like you, people like me, people who have shows, we actually talk about whatever is in our realm. When I say realm, whatever we are actually paying attention to is what we're talking about. And just like a perfect example is HEX. If I would have got in cryptos prior to HEX's launch, and I would have had the luck of watching Richard Hart, understanding who he is, his level of intelligence, and then recognizing that, oh, wow, this is a really interesting project, I would have probably put money into it, and I would probably be a hexagon right now.
So you're saying if you had been in crypto before HEX launched and you had known who Richard was before HEX launched, that you probably would have bought HEX?
Yeah.
But you were in crypto before HEX launched. You didn't know who Richard was before.
But I wasn't paying attention
But
to
you
it.
weren't paying attention. Okay.
Yeah, and people who would have brought it up on my show or over in the chat is it wasn't that I hated HEX or anything like that. It's just probably at that time I held a lot of Litecoin, and I held a lot of actual like Bitcoin, and I held Ethereum, and I held more of the widely known projects that were already around, and that's what my show was more general, just like, hey, cryptocurrency, blockchain, this is what it is, this is what Bitcoin is, this is what Ethereum is, that might change, this is Litecoin. This is years ago, and so it wasn't that I was anti-HEX or anything like that. It's just in my lifetime, it wasn't something that I was looking at or even looking for.
And so that actually holds with the thesis that I've had, which is sort of somewhat opposite to what you've said, was that actually, and a lot of people in the HEX community have pointed out, and it's that actually I think that in some ways, people who were already involved with cryptocurrency when HEX came out were at a distinct disadvantage because they were told by people in authority, in authoritative positions, by people who had been right before, by people who were esteemed and had lots of followers, that HEX was a scam, and they listened. And whereas people who were no coiners seemed to understand very simply that HEX is a CD, it's a savings account, and they didn't have a problem, with Richard owning with the OA controlling 50% of the supply, or with the OA getting half of the bonuses from the penalties for early end stakes. Yeah. Because right now, the penalties for early end stakes in traditional CDs. What happens when you when you end a traditional CD early? Who does that money go to?
Yeah, I mean,
100% to the bank.
It's people who love HEX should love it. It's if you've chosen HEX as one of your favorite projects, I'm happy for you. And I hope it goes to the moon.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though I don't own any.
Hey, we're already past the moon here. I mean, so Richard's prediction was that in 2.5 years, HEX would 10,000x. HEX has already 10,000x.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Hence the jewelry on the head.
Well, this is a queen. This is actually somewhat of like an ode to Richard, because there was one time I was watching him and have you watched some of his recent streams where he's always like showing off all of his watches and expensive jewelry, and he was like because people like to see displays of opulence.
Yeah.
And so there was one day I was getting ready to go on stream and I was like, displays of opulence. And I went and looked for like the blingiest jewelry that I could find in my house. And I put on a tiara. And someone said, hey, after the stream, someone said, my wife sat down and watched that entire stream because when she walked by, she loved your jewelry. So ever since then, I've worn a tiara and like very, fancy, sparkly jewelry on stream because I want more women to buy cryptocurrency. I want women to gain financial freedom and, potentially leave bad situations if they're in them, and then if that's because of money.
Yeah, I mean, it's people like watching people who are successful. Nobody ever goes out and actually purchases a book, How to Fail.
Yeah.
It's they want to see what they want to be. That's human nature. If that's why we all learned, or at least my generation learned, if you want to be rich, do what rich people do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be wealthy, then you do what rich people do. You just do it better.
Yep.
And it's why cryptocurrency, which I hope everyone realized that it's cryptocurrency is never going to ever have this, we all love each other. Let's come together and hug.
No, I want that. That's my thing. I want that, Ben. I want us to all be able to be friends.
That's unrealistic because of human nature.
So, okay, so here's something that I said recently in a stream that I did with someone who's like a big HEX Dash proponent. He was a big, big Dash guy, and then he wanted HEX and Dash to become friends. And I was like, it's not that every single person always has to get along, but it's that I feel like there should be open lines of communication between projects. So even when our leaders disagree, right? Like even when, let's say, like, okay, so I would say that Litecoin is the project that you're most closely associated with, like you're most well known for. Would you say that's correct? Okay. So even though, let's say, Richard and Charlie dislike each other, we are not our leaders. Like, we are not our leaders. So I have likened cryptocurrencies to like nation states, right? So next week, I'm going to the United Arab Emirates to Dubai for the conference there.
Ooh, good for you.
I'm really excited. I actually get to speak, so it's really going to be great.
Congratulations.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. So I lived kind of overseas. I lived in the Middle East, back and forth, Dubai and Iran for a couple of years when I was in college doing my doctoral research. And one thing that I love about going to the United Arab Emirates is that you don't need an extra visa on your passport to go there. So like when I went to Iran, I had to have all of these extra visas and clearances and passports and permissions from their governments because we don't have international relations with Iran. And that was a pain in the butt. It was expensive. It was time consuming. I don't like that. But with the UAE, I don't need any extra passports, any extra information. All I need is my one passport. And then I can go in and out. And that's kind of how I feel like cryptocurrencies should be. Like we should just need, hey, here's my passport. Here's my passport that I am a crypto, I'm a citizen of the crypto. Yeah.
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 See, my philosophy is freedom first.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what project you love. It's not my right or it's not my job to tell you what you should love or what you should hold. It's what America and the world, what we really need to recognize is freedom.
Yep.
Laws and regulations and all that other is horseshit.
Mm-hmm.
What we need to do is recognize each other's freedoms, and this world will be a happy place because freedom is the only system where everyone is happy with their options, not their results, not where they are financially or anything like that. It's your options. If you value others' freedom as much as you value yours, you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. And the byline, the tagline on my Twitter right now is like giving zero F's about what you put in your body or what you hold in your wallet, and just asking for the same courtesy.
Yeah, and that's what my show has always been about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very controversial person
Mm-hmm.
now.
I chase
25
controversy.
years ago, 45 years ago, I was the normal. People like me was the normal. We minded our own business. We don't care who you sleep with. We don't
Mm-hmm.
care if you want to dress up like a woman. We don't, none of that matters to us because it doesn't affect us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, like, uh, like Benjamin Franklin said, if it does not pick my pocket or break my leg, why would I care? It's it, other people's freedoms are just as valuable as mine. And that's what we all in cryptos, that's why I have people who I've actually done interviews with, and they're like, Litecoin sucks. And I go, okay, then don't buy it. Well, no, that's not good enough. Well, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. It's if you don't value my freedom to like and hold Litecoin, then I'm not going to waste my time even talking to you. Because in this world, if you want any semblance of happiness, you have to get rid of this me mind
Mm-hmm.
where everything is about me and what I want. And unfortunately, the global cancel culture has held up this idea that if you don't agree with me, then you should be punished. That's ridiculous. That's the dumbest thing and the cruelest thing you could ever say to anybody. Because
Yep.
if you're living your life trying to actually be who someone else tells you you should be, number one, you're not living your life. And number two, you'll never be happy. And number three, I guarantee they will never be happy with you because every time you please them, raises the bar on their expectations of you
Yep.
pleasing them more.
Yep. Absolutely.
My
So I'm
little
getting a
time.
notification that Richard Hart is going live, and we do have a policy on this network not to overstream Richard. There's one thing, two things I want to go over before we go. I wanted to ask you about Divi, but I guess we're going to have to do that another time just because I've seen so much activity on that. Kevin Rayan brought something up. It's something that I've been talking about for quite a while. Crypto's purpose is to replace the bank. So say Bitcoin's gold, Pulse and ETH is infrastructure, HEX is a CD or a savings account. Pick any meme coin for currency. And what we still need to replace is mortgages. There are actually a number of companies working right now on being able to fix your yield so that you can get a mortgage back, so that you can get like a self-collateralized mortgage. And it's something that I'm really interested in. One thing that I'm watching is Unreal. That's not a show, but I do work for that company. So there we go, Kevin. The last thing that I don't want to overstream Richard because, well, we won't anyway. Like everyone will just tune out. But the last thing that I like to ask people, Ben, would you build a bridge with me?
A bridge?
Yeah, so it goes like this. We build a bridge.
Oh, sure. Wait, hang on.
It's the opposite of how you think. Yep.
There we
go. Bridge built.
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much for your time, for being here. I'm sorry that we didn't get more into your project. Yeah.
No problem. Hey, tell Richard if he ever wants to actually come on my show or have me on his show, I'm there.
I think that he would probably love that. You have a significant following. So let's clip this and get that done for sure. DKK,
absolutely.
Thanks for the super chat. Thank you all for being here. All right. Thank you, Ben. Thank you all for being here. Go watch Richard. Have an awesome day.